Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome all of you to tonight's first of our Beaujolais evenings with Jean-Marc Burgaud and Tim Sykes, who's the Society's buyer for Beaujolais. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Emma, I'm part of the tastings team, and I'm joined here tonight by Anna and Tim, also on the tastings team, who are going to be working behind the scenes and making all the magic happen. So as always, just a couple of points of housekeeping to cover before I pass you over to Tim Sykes, who'll do the proper introduction. As you're watching, you might like to swipe between portrait and gallery view, depending on whether it is Jean-Marc who's talking and doing the presentation, or whether Jean-Marc and Tim are talking. That way you might get the best view that you want. We will be keeping you all on mute throughout the duration of the tasting, just to stop any background noise from going on. If you have any questions and you'd like to ask them, if you press the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, I'm sure you all know the drill by now, and then type in your question. We will try and get to as many as we can this evening. And of course, as always, we'd love you to tell us where you are and what you're drinking. And you can do that by clicking on the chat button. So as I say, we hopefully will have time and the internet connection in the second half of this event tonight for you to ask your questions yourselves. If you can, don't worry, we'll call your name and we'll unmute you first. So I think that's all from me. I hope that you really enjoyed tonight's session, and I'll pass you over to Tim Sykes. Thank you very much. Tim, are you there?
I am here.
Excellent.
Good. Can everybody hear me and see me? I hope so.
Tim, we can hear you, but we can't see you. So
right.
we might have to get you to, there we go, that's better.
We've had one or two technical issues. Rather importantly, Jean-Marc, are you there? Answer, came there none.
We've been having a few technical issues this evening, haven't we? It looks like Jean-Marc has left us temporarily. We'll try and get him back, but perhaps you could talk a little bit, Tim, about the kind of theme for tonight's tasting, because it's the first Beaujolais tasting that we've done, isn't it?
It is. We've done a few Bordeaux tastings. We've done a sherry tasting. I'd wanted to get Jean-Marc for quite a long time. Basically, the harvest is quite early in Beaujolais, so August was out of the question, and so was September. So this is really the first opportunity to get a Beaujolais producer in front of us, and who better to start with than Jean-Marc. Jean-Marc, who I will introduce formally when he's able to join us. Jean-Marc is, I can see. Can you see me, Jean-Marc? You're muted.
Jean-Marc, we must get you to unmute. There we go.
Okay. Now I can see you. I think I can hear you, and I hope you can do the same.
It's the same for me. All is perfect. Perfect.
Okay. So it's my pleasure not only to introduce Jean-Marc to the audience today, and Jean-Marc is one of the top producers in Beaujolais. Certainly, I would say the top producer in Morgon, and also one of the very best producers in the whole of Beaujolais. So it's a thrill that you're able to join us, Jean-Marc.
Tim,
Now,
can I interrupt you just for a second? Jean-Marc, there's an echo, I think. Yeah. Is it possible to switch off your laptop as before?
To speak about my job from the beginning.
Just before we start that, Jean-Marc, we can hear an echo in the background.
Okay.
Is
I have to change of place, maybe.
Either that, or is your laptop computer in the vicinity? Is it close by?
Yes, it's close.
But are you on your iPad at the moment?
I have only the iPad only.
Perhaps if you try changing place, we can remove ourselves from the source of the problem.
Yes. Maybe somewhere with a better signal, maybe.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we can see your domain, or the inside of your domain. Apologies, everybody who's tuned in. We do occasionally get these technical problems. We did a run through yesterday, and it seemed to go okay. But as with these things, doesn't always work. Now, Jean-Marc.
Is it better now?
Yes, much better.
It is. No echo.
Okay, so I have just to find a good place for the iPad.
Yeah.
In the middle of the barrel.
Good.
Excellent.
Or on the table, maybe with the light.
Well, everybody, this shows you how authentic it is. This is Jean-Marc's. This is where Jean-Marc makes his wine. You can see a barrel in the background. Okay, I think we're ready to go. We're ready to rock and roll.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
Good.
Okay, Jean-Marc. So, welcome tonight. It's a pleasure to have you on board, and a pleasure to do our first webinar from Beaujolais. Perhaps maybe we can start with you talking through a little bit about your start in the wine business and in winemaking, and also your philosophy in making wine.
Good. For beginning, thank you very much for your organization for this moment. This is really an honor for me. So I was born in a family of producers in Lantigné, a small village near the Cru. And my parents were producers in this village. And it was too small to start with them, but I worked a lot when I was a child with them. So I started at 22 years old with 4 hectares of vines from my great uncle. I rented these 4 hectares from him because my parents' estate was too small. And I decided to work alone immediately after my studies. So I learned 3 years in a special school for wine growing and winemaking. Mm-hmm. And I'm starting in '89 with 2 hectares of Beaujolais village, 1 hectare of Rémy, and 1 hectare of Morgon, Les Charmes. And the same year, I get married with Christine. Yeah. Christine was born in Morgon, and her parents were wine grower too. Yeah. And they stopped their activity in 1992. So we worked starting 92 with more vines in Morgon, especially in the Côte du Puy.
So basically, you brought together your own expertise and that Christine, your wife, and
absolutely.
And how were when you joined together the business?
In 2012, it's 12 hectares, and we found new vines with the ears, and now we work 17 hectares.
Okay.
But the evolution was 4 at the beginning, 12, 3 years after, and now 17. Okay.
And just out of interest, out of the total acreage or the total number of hectares that you have, Jean-Marc, between you and Christine, do you own all of it, or do you rent some of the vineyards, or how does that work?
we rent from my father a small part, 2 hectares in Beaujolais village. From Christine's mother, 4 hectares in Morgon. From another owner, 6 hectares, and our property is approximately now 4 hectares.
Okay, so it's a mixture of propriété, as they say, and
absolutely. Sorry?
Is it fermage, the way that you rent them?
Yes, in the majority. We have a small part in métayage.
Right. So just to difference, everybody, there are different ways of renting vines in France. So you can either pay in cash or you can pay in wine. Métayage is paying in wine. Is that right? And fermage is paying raw cash.
Yes, yes. This is the difference.
So your focus today is Morgon. That's what you're famous for. I have a few bottles lined up in front of me and a very nice glass of Côte du Py 2018, which is your top wine, the Côte du Py.
Yes.
Maybe it would be interesting for people, because obviously there are 10 different Cru Beaujolais, so everybody's heard of Fleury. Most people have also heard of Morgon Moulin-Avant. Yes. What is the particular character, would you say, Jean-Marc, of Morgon specifically?
I think in the 10 Beaujolais Cru, we have 3 different styles. We have the fruity crus like Régnier or Chirouble, and at the opposite, we have the very rich and to keep wines, Morgon and Moulin-Avant. So Morgon is a very special cru because of the type of soil. This is a wine to keep, very full, rich with tannin. I think it's maybe the more interesting cru with a very special soil. For example, the type of soil in the Côte du Py, you can't find this type in another place of Beaujolais. Right. So Morgon is a very, very special style, maybe more Burgundy style.
And the character of the wine is largely from the specific soil that the vines are planted on. So is that, because in the Côte du Py, is it? It's a very specific soil in the Côte du Py, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Where this one.
A lot of people said that it's a volcano, but it's not true. This is the end of the center of France with a special stone. It comes from the eruption, the eruption inside the soil, and this is now blue granite in decomposition.
Right.
With iron oxide.
Okay, and that gives the wine its character and its structure as well, presumably, because as you said earlier, the wines keep extremely well.
Yeah. Yes, wines are always rich with a lot of color. In maceration, it's really interesting to see that after 4 or 5 days of maceration, we have a lot of color in the Côte du Py, always. It's coming immediately. Yeah. And wines from Côte du Py are very rich in color, tannin, and the special fruits, remember the cherry.
Okay.
In 2020, the new vintage, this is incredible. It's smell cherry.
Right.
So this is the Morgon Côte du Py style.
Mm-hmm. And you've got 2 other cru. You've got 2 other vineyards that you vinify within the Morgon appellation. Maybe you can talk about the Grand Cras and the Les Charmes a little bit.
Yes. So Morgon is um, in 6 different parts called climat.
Yeah.
Côte du Puy is a famous place, but Grand Cras and Les Charmes are 2 another places really interesting. Les Charmes in the west part of the Morgon area, in the just near Régnier. This is a typical Beaujolais soil with granite and stones. It gives always rich but fruity wine, ready to drink, younger than the Côte du Puy. The Grand Cras in the south part of the Morgon area, just near Brouy. The soil is in majority clay, not really easy to work, but really interesting. With the special weather now, it's always fresh with humidity and really interested in hot vintage or sunny vintages. Grand Cras gives rich wines with tannin, not so fine like Côte du Puy. It's maybe between Charme and Côte du Puy, tannin and fruits.
And presumably, Jean-Marc, as the wines evolve with age, those differences become more obvious.
Yeah. I think Morgon Les Charmes is really easy, young, and very fine, and it's not necessary to have a lot of air to have a perfect bottle. The perfect moments for Les Charmes, it's after 1 year for 5 years. Grand Cras, I think it needs more time to be perfect. 2 years. It needs time. Côte du Puy is always full. It's difficult to explain the difference with age, but maybe when you have these 3 different wine, you can start with Les Charmes for 2 years.
Yeah.
You continue with the Grand Cras to finish with the Côte du Puy.
Yeah. I mean, just to, when I come and visit Jean-Marc, which sadly haven't been able to do for a while for obvious reasons, he always is very indulgent, and at the end of the tasting, having tasted the young wines, Jean-Marc will always say, would you like to taste an older vintage? So of course the answer is always yes. And I remember one of the first times that I visited Jean-Marc, he opened a Magnum of 1992. This is only 2 or 3 years ago. He opened a Magnum of 1992, Morgon Côte du Puy, and 92 apparently was one of the worst vintages in living memory. Is that correct, Jean-Marc?
Yes, it's correct.
The year that your son was born?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I have to say the wine was sublime. And to me, that just amply demonstrated the keeping potential of good Beaujolais, particularly Morgon. Yeah. And the fact that a poor vintage produced such a sublime wine, 28 years later or 26 years later was extraordinary.
Yeah.
So the answer basically, therefore, is hang on to your Morgon because it will get better and better. I think far too much Beaujolais, I think you'll agree with this, Jean-Marc.
Yes.
Far too much Beaujolais is drunk too young.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes.
So we've talked about Morgon, which is obviously your speciality. There's a picture from the Côte du Puy, I think.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. This is the top of the coast.
Top of the cru. So what altitude would that be, Jean-Marc?
The top of the Côte du Puy is 350 meters.
So quite high up, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the more structured, serious wines. We also do another wine from you. I believe you have 1 hectare, and we have the exclusivity of this wine. This is a Régnier.
Yes.
Actually, I'm holding up the Côte du Pays bottle, but I meant to pick up the Régnier bottle. There we go. This is the 19 vintage because Jean-Marc sent me some samples of the 19 recently to taste. So you were talking about the fruity styles of wines like Héroul and Régnier. So maybe just talk a little bit about your Régnier, because we're offering that. Actually, all 4 of your wines we are offering at the moment in 2018 vintage, but the one that's most approachable is the Régnier. So maybe explain a little bit about that.
Yes, the beginning of the story with Régnier, this is a younger cru classified in 1988 for the first vintage. Before, it was in the Beaujolais village area, but it was the best Beaujolais village, and the producer from Régnier asked the official classification in cru, and the first vintage was 88. The style is remember the very, very serious Beaujolais village, a lot of fruit, not too much, really rich, but fine. And the soil is this is sandy and stones, so it gives always very easy wine to drink young, but always serious wine.
Yeah. Okay. So that's your range. We do from time to time also buy your Beaujolais Village Lantignier, which
from
your parents' vineyard, and we did buy the 18, which was lovely. And I have to say, I tasted the 19 last week, and that was also very good. We haven't talked about vintages, but 18 is a lovely vintage, and that's the vintage that we have at the moment. Tell us a little bit about the 2018 vintage, Jean-Marc.
18 was very sunny vintage, and we started the harvest in the end of August or the first day of September, just because we had a very, very nice spring, and the vines started very early, and it takes always 100 days between the flower of the grapes and the harvest. So the spring was very hot, and immediately hot after the winter. So we had a very, very nice season, a nice summer with small rain, but rain. And at the end, we had perfect maturity with very big skins, so a lot of color, a very high level of sugar. So we have wines with 13 degrees, 13% alcohol naturally, but with a lot of fruit, a lot of tannin, but very fine, not sweet, but fine. So it's a sunny vintage, a rich vintage, but a typical vintage.
Yeah, but the wines maintained freshness, didn't they? So the acidity levels are decent, and the pH levels are low, which means that the wine tastes lovely and fresh.
Yes.
And for me, that's what Beaujolais is all about. Is because they're gastronomic wines, aren't they? They are wines that are perfect.
Yes.
So you need to have that balance of not too much alcohol and decent acidity. And you always get that in your wines. It's one of the hallmarks of your wine, I would say.
Yes. It's very the balance between the acidity and the fruit and the tannin is really important, and it's for sunny vintage, very digest.
Yes, so
it's very, very important.
Yes. So this is, and there may be some questions on this later, Jean-Marc, but one of the conversations that we increasingly have on these webinars is about the climate and how things are changing. And for me, and I don't know if you'll agree, one of the biggest challenges for Beaujolais as a region is the fact that vintages are getting hotter. Because for me, Beaujolais is all about the pleasure and the balance and the freshness.
Yes.
Gamay, the grape for Beaujolais, is unique pretty much in Beaujolais. You don't get this quality of grape anywhere else. So I think it's so important to maintain the character of Beaujolais.
Yes, it's very important, yes.
And are you finding it more challenging every year to make wines that are characteristic of Beaujolais?
Yes. Yes, it's always a challenge.
So are there things that you are doing that allow you to, I mean, are you doing different things in the vineyard to help this?
Yes. I took a decision many years ago with this new weather, this hot summer. I stopped to tie up. We can say tie up.
Yes, to do the.
I use now a very old process from my parents and my grandparents. I close every fit by hand to keep a lot of leaves to protect the grapes.
So this is the pruning. This is the pruning. So you prune the vines so that they are protected from the sun.
Yes. I keep the leaves to protect the grapes from the sun, and it's a very, very important decision, and it's working very well. For example, in 2020, in my south part of Côte du Puy, it's always the sunny part. I keep every leaves, and grapes were perfect. So it's small things. It's a lot of job, but it's really better for the quality of the grapes, so for the quality of the wine.
So we can see a picture in the background of the Côte du Puy.
Yes.
You can see how the vines, the concentration of vines is very, very high, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
How many thousand vines per hectare?
10,000 per hectare.
So that's a huge amount of work.
This is a very high density. One vine for 1 meter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that for you gives you the best quality, does it? Having
yes.
a very high concentration of vines.
Yes, it's a very important, because the gamay is the gamay doesn't love the competition.
Right.
And to produce small grape, if you have no competition on the soil, you have big grapes and you have dilution. So with a high density of vines, we have only small fruits. We have a lot of leaves. We have every vine protects the other one. So this is the tradition, but there is a lot of very good reasons to have high density.
Yeah.
Now a lot of people try to change the vines with only 5,000 feet in 1 hectare, but it doesn't work correctly. It's too. There is no competition, and you have big grapes, so you have dilution, and it's not the same style of wine.
So what is remarkable, Jean-Marc, is that the price that you can buy Beaujolais, Cru Beaujolais, quality Cru Beaujolais like yours, is affordable, whereas further north in Burgundy, which, you know, doesn't necessarily have such high density vineyards, and also is therefore not doesn't require so much labor, they charge considerably more, shall I say. So to me that says this is great value wine.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I think
really.
a lot of people are finding Burgundy, obviously Burgundy, red Burgundy is Pinot Noir, so you can't make a direct comparison, but I mean, there are a lot of similarities between the two, and the great thing about Beaujolais is that it remains incredibly affordable. One thing I wanted to ask you, we had a conversation a while ago, Jean-Marc, about vineyard staff. So in other words, how many people, apart from yourself and Christine, work for Domaine Burgaud?
4 people, 4 persons all the year, and sometimes many people for pruning in winter.
Yeah.
And 25 persons for the harvest.
Yeah.
Because we picked by hand.
Yeah.
100% of the area. But it's only four people.
You were telling me how difficult it is to get good people to work in the vineyard.
Yes. Yes,
and,
it's really difficult.
Why do you think that is, Jean-Marc?
I think because it's a difficult job. A lot of people work with their parents or start by themselves a new. There is no more offer, and maybe there is a competition between the region Macon or with the Bourgogne, the Côte d'Or and the Mâconnais.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
In French.
In French, le salaire.
Salary. Yeah.
Yes.
Pay.
The payment is really interesting in Burgundy. For example, if you drive a tractor, you can have maybe 2,500 euro for 35 hours a week. Yeah. So per month. So with charge, it's very expensive. For Beaujolais, it's not possible. Okay. So it's a lot of very good people are working in Macon or in Burgundy.
Yeah, because they can earn more money.
They have more money. Yeah. So this is maybe one problem, but there is no more people are looking for a job in the vines. For example, I have asked the school just near Belleville, a special school for wine growing and wine, to employ students. Nobody is call me. So
I think you told me a story, Jean-Marc, that you took on a young guy who lasted about 3 days or something and didn't like being outside and didn't like the hard work. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yes. In winter, it's not always easy.
No.
It's cold. It's windy.
Pruning the vines in Beaujolais in winter, particularly probably on the Côte de Pie, must be brutal. Must be really tough.
Really.
And do you do some of the pruning, Jean-Marc?
Yes. Yeah. I love this job. It's my favorite job.
Is it?
Yes.
You're a masochist.
Yes. Yes. It's the more interesting because it's the beginning of the vintage. It's a very nice job. So I'm pruning all the winter, not every day, but maybe 3 days a week.
Really?
From December to March.
How's your back, Jean-Marc? Because with all the goblet vines, the bush vines, you have to bend over each time that you're.
Yes.
So
yeah,
have you got to? You must. Do you wear something to protect your back?
It was for me very difficult many years ago, but now I think everything is now
Adapted. Yes.
soudé.
You've got a muscular back, obviously.
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's fascinating, Jean-Marc. I wonder if we should open the floor to some questions, Emma.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, just getting myself back online. So, Jean-Marc, a few people have been asking, we can see some barrels behind you.
Yes.
Which wines do you age in oak and how long for?
I have only two special cuvées. This is a very small production from the Côte du Py. The first cuvée comes from the east side of the coast and called Javernière. This is the lieu-dit inside the Côte du Py. The second one comes from a small part from the top of the Côte du Py, just near the cross, and called James. The two wines stay 12 months in barrel, only 5 to 8 years old barrel, no new oak. It's just to affine and to enhance the tannin and to open the fruit. This is a very, very small production and proper on quantity. It's approximately 2,000 bottles for each.
Tiny.
This is a Burgundy style, just because sometimes in the Côte du Py we can have a very, very rich wine with a lot of tannin, and the oak and the oxygen with the oak is working very, very good for the tasting after. But it's not really typical of Beaujolais. So we must be prudent with the oak in Beaujolais because the first quality of Beaujolais wines is the fruit. And if we don't use correctly oak, we can lose the fruits and take the wood. So it's not interesting. So for me, it's a very, very small production just because I have rich wines.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Second question, we've had quite a few questions come in, so you must bear with us. Second question comes from Francis. I don't know whether we've managed to get Francis online. Are you there at all, Francis?
Sorry.
No, it's...
Could you repeat, please? Sorry.
Yes, of course. So she says that...
Yes, you can. I'm here.
Oh, excellent. You can ask your question yourself if you would like.
Okay, it's been lovely to hear you, and I've tasted Morgon often over the years. I have quite serious wine friends, not me, who hesitate perhaps to drink Beaujolais, and I was wondering actually why. Is it a matter of complexity? Perhaps if, I don't know how your wines age. I've only drunk them young. They're used to drinking wines from Bordeaux or from Burgundy.
Yes.
So how would your wines age, for example, to give them greater complexity?
A wine from Morgon with age is really, really interesting. At the beginning, we can have tannin, young fruits. We can drink Morgon young with maybe 1 hour in a decanter, but with age, it's really, really interesting. The tannin is more fine. The fruit is really different, and we can compare Gamay with age at Pinot with age. After 15 or 20 years, Gamay remember Pinot Noir. So it's coming fine, elegant, with a lot of fruits. Of course, it's all different with the vintage, but it's really interesting to taste old Beaujolais.
Excellent. Thank you for that, because there's a few people who've been asking actually how Beaujolais does age, because there seems to be, from the chat, there seems to be quite a range of vintages that people are drinking tonight. So we've got some people who are drinking the 2015, other people are drinking your Morgon 2018.
Yes.
Still others have got much older wines as well. So what you're saying is that you can pretty much drink them at any age, and you'll get very different styles, very different experiences from each of them, but they're all good.
I think the best moment to drink every vintage is after 2 years, for 5 or 6 years, but we can keep it more. I think 18 is maybe too young, but with 1 hour in the decanter, it's really good. It's really perfect. I've tested a 15 yesterday evening. It's really amazing, but we can keep it 10 years more, no problem. I have a small experience, but my first vintage in Côte du Puy was 92. Tim spoke at the beginning of the conversation about this wine. Every vintages from 92 are interesting and good. If you like old wines, it's really interesting to taste old and to keep. So the best moment is after 2 years and for 6 years, but you can keep it more.
Fantastic. I think that ties in really nicely. Now, Tim, I know that you've got some of the Morgon Côte de Puy in front of you.
I
believe you do. There's a couple of members who are asking whether it be possible to do a quick tasting note on the wine so that they can taste along with you. And Jean-Marc, if you have the Morgon Côte de Puy, maybe you could kind of just explain what they should be looking for in the wine, what they're hoping to taste.
Yes, I can take a glass.
Sure.
You have a glass.
So well, I'll give you my feedback. I can't remember what my tasting note says, but Jean-Marc talked about cherries earlier, and for me, that is something that comes through in spades in the 2018 vintage. The wines have real freshness and vibrancy. Not too much tannin, but there is a bit of structure there because the wine is very young. And as Jean-Marc said, I think when you're tasting serious Cru Beaujolais that's that young, an hour in decanter makes such a huge amount of difference, not because there's any sediment in the wine, but simply because it aerates the wine. And the more aeration you give to the wine, the more user-friendly it becomes. So, you know, in an ideal world, I wouldn't be drinking my 18s for probably 3 years. But I've only been buying Beaujolais for the Wine Society for 3 years. So I haven't managed to build up a backlog of older vintages. So what I'm trying to do is drink half my stash and keep the rest so that I can drink it in 3, 4, 5 years' time, because there is absolutely no doubt, particularly with the Côte du Puy, that the wines go on and on.
Yeah. I think the most important is the balance between the tannin, the fruit, and this is my job. For example, I don't work always on the same way. Always on the same way, but never with the same process. I take small decision. For example, a short maceration, 2 days lace, to have the perfect balance with the vintage. The most important is really the balance of every element. And with this decision, we can drink a young wine, and we can keep, because the wine is going, is aging with everything perfectly.
Yeah. So what you're saying, Jean-Marc, is if the wine has balance, then it will age.
Yeah.
It will be, and it will taste well throughout life in the bottle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so now we've got a couple of, we call them technical questions to ask. How has the use of chaptalization changed in Beaujolais over the years? So for those who aren't clear on chaptalization, the addition of sugar in order to bump up the alcohol. And what do you think about the changes that have been taking place?
You speak of the weather change?
Well, yes. Basically, I mean, chaptalization is still permitted in Beaujolais.
Yes,
but it's probably it's never used now because the weather is amply warm enough.
Absolutely, yes. It's permitted by the law, but it's never used just because we have now a nice weather, and the job in the vines is different now than the past. A lot of people now think to produce very good wine. The first idea is quality. So we start in the vine to work really correctly, and of course now we produce smaller quantity than many years ago, and the weather helps us. I didn't use sugar since 9 years. It's permitted, but it's now not necessary.
Sorry, I missed that. What was the last vintage? 92? Oh.
With chaptalization?
Yeah, with chaptalization. I missed
2008, a very small quantity. 2008, 12 years ago.
So, I mean, I think this is an issue. Chaptalization now in France has almost died out. I mean, any region, even red wines from the Loire Valley. You really don't see and in Alsace, you just don't see chaptalization because of the change in climate.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's not necessary now.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for answering that, being so honest as well. So the next question is that members come in saying, understand that natural wines are being produced in Beaujolais. Have you ever experimented with this style of winemaking?
It's a very interesting subject. There is a lot. What is natural wine? I have a very special opinion on that. So I must be honest for the beginning of my answer. Wine is not a natural product. Wine is come from the grape by our hands. If you leave your grape in a tank and you are waiting for the nature doing the job. At the end, you have vinegar. The cycle of the grapes with the nature is vinegar. So between that, to produce wine, we must doing some things. Only good condition, it's enough to produce wine. Condition of temperature, oxygen, for good fermentation. So I think we can say not natural wine, but wine with very, very small intervention. Yes, I'm really agree with that because I produce my wine with this opinion. I don't use chemical produce or I use natural yeast.
Yes, so you don't spray the vines with chemicals, do you?
Yeah.
Or minimal spraying.
Yes, absolutely.
And sulfur. Talk to us about sulfur. How much sulfur do you use, Jean-Marc?
Yeah, I think sulfur in the wine. I use sulfur only after the malolactic fermentation, never before, like natural wine producer. But I think sulfur is interesting when it's very with small quantities at the good moments. The total quantity, for example, with the certification organic is around, I think, 90 milligram for 1 liter. And for my range of wine, the higher level is 65. So, but it's not necessary to use more. The most important is to put the grapes in good condition to have wines without problem. And the sulfur is interesting after malolactic fermentation to kill the bacteria and to protect the wine from oxygen. But natural wine are interesting. I think it's maybe now a fashion. There is interesting wines, but it's not always my opinion with many information.
Yes, I mean, I think the natural wine subject, as you say, it's a very complex subject, and there is no official definition for what constitutes a natural wine.
Yes.
But there's no doubt that Beaujolais is one of the places in France that was at the very start of the whole natural wine way. And there are some interesting wines, unquestionably. But one person's natural wine is not necessarily another person's natural wine. It depends what your definition. So it's a bit of a minefield, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. And there is no regulation with this word, natural.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future, it could be nice.
Excellent. Well, thank you ever so much for that. So the next question is a combination of a couple of questions that we've been asked. Are the styles of Beaujolais changing? And has Beaujolais Nouveau influenced this change of style?
The Beaujolais Nouveau was really famous in the past, and now it's more and more difficult for this market. at this moment it's more difficult than for this wine, because it's always moments of conviviality, and so with the COVID, it's really bad. But the influence of the Beaujolais Nouveau in the past maybe was it gives a really a dynamic for the region in the 70s and the 80s. Mm-hmm. And now we have sometimes a bad image, because now people, when you say Beaujolais or Cru Beaujolais, when people heard Beaujolais, they say, "Oh no, Beaujolais Nouveau." So it's now difficult with the reputation for every wines. But the future will be, I think, better, because now people understand that there is another wine in Beaujolais.
I think it's fair to say that while Beaujolais Nouveau helped the region commercially in the 1970s and 80s, the long-term effect has been potentially damaging, because people associate the wines of Beaujolais with Beaujolais Nouveau, and of course, you know, your wines have nothing to do with Beaujolais Nouveau at all. I think also a lot of people like Fleury, they like Morgon, they like Moulin Avant. They don't necessarily know that they are Beaujolais, because Beaujolais does not appear on the label. So when you when you talk about Cru Beaujolais, people don't necessarily realize you're talking about Morgon or Fleury or Moulin Avant or Julien.
For a crazy story, in the Burgundy wine, a lot of Burgundy wine, you can read on the label Vin de Bourgogne, wine of Burgundy. In Beaujolais, you never read on the label of Beaujolais Cru, Cru du Beaujolais, just because people don't want to have the word Beaujolais in the label of Cru. Maybe in the future it will be better, I think.
Hopefully because in the future.
Yes.
I mean, the good news, Jean-Marc, is that sales of Beaujolais on the export market, certainly to the UK, are increasing. And, you know, we are seeing our Beaujolais sales increasing very encouragingly. And I think that's got to be partly because Burgundy is so expensive, and people are actually rediscovering the wonders of Beaujolais. As we talked about it earlier, you know, the difference in price between Côte d'Or Burgundy and Cru Beaujolais is massive. There are some lovely, authentic wines from Cru Beaujolais that are being rediscovered by wine fans.
Yes, this new market of expensive wine is a really good opportunity for Beaujolais wine, and to discover our nice wines. I think.
Absolutely fantastic. So I'm aware of time. We do have quite a lot of questions that have come in. Would it be okay if we got you to answer the questions by email later, afterwards? In which case I have 3 rapid fire questions for you to finish this evening's event. The first one is, what is the best serving temperature for Beaujolais, for your Morgon? What is the best temperature?
I think 18 degrees is perfect, not too cold, because it closes the fruits and it tastes more tannin. So 18 degrees is really the best temperature.
Fantastic.
And for a fruity wine, maybe 16.
Mm-hmm.
For example, for the Beaujolais Village or Régnier, maybe 16 is better. But for the Morgon, it's more rich, more full-bodied.
Mm-hmm.
18 is good.
Fantastic. And what glass would you serve it in? Are you looking for a big glass, a more Bordeaux shape, or a big shape, or?
I love always big glass, a big glass.
Big
but
glass.
For young wines, for wines young to 3 years old, not too large, but don't move. This type of glass,
Okay.
bigger, but like a flower, we said tulip.
Tulip, yeah.
Yeah.
Tulip. But it's interesting when it's closed a little on the top, but not too large at the beginning. It's more interesting for all the wines.
Okay. Fantastic. And finally, what is your favorite food and wine matching pairing? So what is your favorite dish to eat alongside drinking your Morgon?
One of the wines from Beaujolais are really easy to according with foods. With a young Morgon, my favorite food is meat, roasted meat, beef or veal, but roasted meat are really interesting with Beaujolais wines. With rich wine, we can try meat with sauce, but roasted meat is maybe the best
match. Yeah.
Yes,
Fantastic.
the best match. Yes.
I think we're all probably rather hungry now. So for those of us lucky enough to have a glass of Beaujolais, roasted meat is where it's at for your dinner this evening. So I think all that's left for me to say is thank you very much to you, Jean-Marc, and to you, Tim, as well, for what's been a really lovely evening. Hearing you talk about the wines of Beaujolais, you've reminded me, if I needed reminding, how much I love your wines and
Thank you.
how versatile they are as well. So I do hope that all the members who've been watching have enjoyed it. And anybody who has questions that we haven't managed to answer this evening, for which we apologize, we'll send them on to you and get you to answer when you have a spare moment. Tim, is there anything you would like to add?
No, just thank you, everybody. And Jean-Marc, thank you. Sorry to everybody for the technical problems, but we finally resolved them, and I hope you enjoyed the tasting. Merci, Jean-Marc.
Merci. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Goodbye.
Thanks. Good evening.
Good evening.